Want to know the most underrated marketing and sales strategy as a female entrepreneur? Audacity, with just a sprinkle of delusion. I'm Leanne Lopez Mosley, modern day business mogul, founder of Rich Queen, and the creator and host of the Soft Girl Millions Show. Trailblazing isn't just what I do, it's who I am. I grew up across the pond in a small town in England, the middle child, definitely the one who spoke too much and dreamed way too big. I was the little girl with a Hollywood Walk of Fame tile on her pink bathroom wall, so I guess you could say that this was really all part of the plan. I moved to New York at 21 to work in fashion. Think Ugly Betty, but on steroids, realizing very quickly that if I was gonna work this hard, I was sure as hell gonna get paid very well for it. I mean, listen, I'm a Taurus. It's expensive to be me. Somewhere in the middle of corporate America 12 years ago, I met my husband, Justin, still the hottest and coolest man alive. I'm a boy mum, 4 kids with a rich and full life. And I've built a business that creates delusional income without me being at the cost of it. I went all in, walking away from corporate into my coaching business at the end of 2020. And before I even hit anything close to $1 million a month, before the audience, before the proof and the evidence, I was already being coined the trailblazer of the online coaching space. And for good reason. The truth is, I'm no stranger to doing things differently. Whether it be the video content that so many people know me for, the messaging frameworks and the feminine freedom funnels that have shown women how to remove themselves as the cost in their business, it's so clear why my brand grew the way that it did. Because I don't follow trends, I set them. Here's the truth about the female entrepreneur space. There are so many iconic women building these incredible businesses, but still feeling and being the cost at the end of it. And that's exactly what this show is here to change. Soft Girl Millions is not about being soft on the outside and baking sourdough. It's not about the aesthetics or the idea of not working. It's about what happens when a woman stops being soft with everybody else, when she decides to stop being the cost of her own ambition and success. This show is a completely different format, part podcast, part reality TV show. We are traveling the world and bringing to you, straight into your screen, into the lives of iconic women. Not this perfectly polished, curated version that just sounds good on paper, but the real, the raw, the audacious and the vulnerable and everything in between. This show is not just about you watching us, it's actually about you learning how to build a business and a life and a level of wealth that blows your mind while you refuse to be the cost of it. So I invite you to come with me on this journey. This is the Soft Girl Millions Show. So excited because today's guest is such an icon and such a representation of why I even wanted to do this show to begin with. When I thought about doing Soft Girl Millions, the show, I really thought about the iconic trailblazing women that I could bring to all of you who have been part of so many of our journeys. And today's guest is so incredible because not only has she impacted and was part of the inspiration behind me wanting to start my own business to begin with, she also is directly related to how many female entrepreneurs we now have in the industry. The stats, when you look at before her versus after, are significant, and we're going to be talking about that in today's episode. But what's even cooler for me is the fact that she and I are from the same place, and we didn't even know that we were from the same place. Like, what are the chances of 2 women, 2 trailblazers, being from the exact same small, tiny place in England and both being responsible for such a huge wave of women audaciously taking up space and starting businesses that create incredible success for them and their families. We have become really fast friends, and she is just such an honor and privilege to know as a friend, but also as a peer. And she is going to be sharing so many gems with all of you tonight, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. Okay. So excited. Okay. Okay, I think she's here. I'm so excited. Yay! She is here.
Oh my goodness,
Welcome
thank
to
you
the
so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Look, we got the memo, the matching memo.
We got the neutrals. I'm all about the neutrals, darling.
We also brought the British rain with us, but the sun is starting to shine just in time.
It's a nostalgic feeling. That's what we're going for.
It's time for the Soft Girl Millions show featuring none other than Danielle Canty. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is a bit better than our previous drinking days.
Ooh, that is a dirty martini. Okay, what better place to start? Before you arrived, I was sharing a couple key things around why I'm so excited to have you on the show. The first being that you were a huge part of my journey, even becoming an entrepreneur. And I followed Boss Babe and saved all the quotes on all the pink and black text that you guys used to use. And I remember just being so inspired by the movement that was Boss Babe. But I also know that the landscape when, this was back in 2019 and into 2020, which was when obviously you were still, you had co-founded Boss Babe and you were still part of Boss Babe back then. But I know that the online landscape for female entrepreneurs had really significantly changed. And we had spoken about this on a call once around the numbers of what percentage of female entrepreneurs there were before Boss Babe versus when you exited. It is incredible. And I remember it was in the 20s and in the 40s, but I would love for you to talk about that because you literally are one of the OG trailblazers in this space around actually blazing a trail for the rest of us that came after you.
Yeah, it was a completely different landscape. And also the mindset was really different as well. So when we co-founded Boss Babe, it was 2018, and the amount of women founded businesses in the US was 29%.
Wow.
So out of all businesses founded in the US, only 29% were by women. And the survey in 2024, I exited in late 2023, that had jumped to 49%.
Wow.
So a huge proportion of more women being able to be actually, you know what? I do want to do more, and I do want to start a business, and I do want to take more control of my finances. And I think really the big conversation changed because even if I think back to how I felt when I co-founded Boss Babe was, I didn't have a space. It was very ambitious. And all the people around me who were doing big things, I was a chiropractor back then, but I remember saying to my boss at the time, hey, I really want to buy some of your clinics. And he looked at me, albeit I was about 23 and it probably was a little crazy, but I was like, hey, can I buy your clinic off you? And he was like, excuse me? And I was like, I really want to have my own clinics. I don't really want to work for somebody else. And he was like, I think you're a little young for this. And even then as I grew, and he was like, come back in another year. And I just think the landscape of how women were thought of in the workplace and how they were thought in the entrepreneur community was really different back then by each other and by men. And so Boss Babe really stood out because we were the first voice that was unapologetically ambitious. That's what we were there for. We were there to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be embarrassed by saying that I want to earn more money. Right. I'm not going to be embarrassed by saying I want to have a bigger, business. I'm not going to be embarrassed by saying I'm not content with where I'm at and I want to have more. And that was really, I think, how Boss Babe stood out and really gained a lot of the traction that it did because there were very few voices at that point saying that.
There was nothing online like Boss Babe. And what you did such a good job of was this identity marketing piece of making the brand about her and about women like me that were yeah, I want to be a Boss Babe. I want to out earn like the corporate salary that I'm in, or the like the bros that I'm around. And like you said, that audacity, that unapologetic desire for a big audacious life. But it also for me felt, for the first time, like being around other women, where it didn't feel like competitive, it felt collaborative.
We used to say collaboration over competition.
Yeah. And I remember just being like, that felt so refreshing, especially as a woman who had not had that experience, both in growing up or in corporate or in any of the environments that I'd been in. And there was something really bold about that time. And I'm so grateful that I got to be part of that wave. I think that it was so insane to me that I had like heard you on podcasts, and I remember listening to you and never even connected the dots of obviously knowing that you were from England. But it wasn't until I was introduced to you, and I don't think I've ever told you this, but a mutual friend of ours, Natasha, introduced us, and she asked me if I was open to being introduced to you, and I about fell off my chair, and I was like, oh! Like, as in the Danielle Canty. I was like, yeah, sure, I'm trying to play it cool. And I remember the first time I got on a Zoom call with you, and I was like so nervous. And I met you, and within 5 minutes, I felt like I'd known you my entire life.
Likewise.
And then we realized within 5 minutes that we are from the same place, which I don't think people really understand, like how unusual
and not
this
like
is.
the same area, not like, oh, we're from California or whatever.
Like the same tiny place in England.
Like the town. How many people are in that town?
No, I don't know. Like not
a few thousand?
No, not very many.
Yeah, not many.
So what are the chances? And we have realized that we were likely in the same places at the same time and didn't even know one another. Like there's a year between us.
Yeah.
And we went to like neighboring schools and we went out in the exact same places. And you know, and now I can't remember a life like before I knew you, because now we talk and it feels like I've known you forever. But I just think it's such a good example of how that reminder, in this whole week, when I think about the women that are on the show here in Beverly Hills, I'm like, it's such a good reminder of like, you never know when the people that you admire will become peers and friends. The people that inspire your journey, you will suddenly be sat alongside, like recording an episode on your own show that they said yes to.
You know what? It's so strange for me though, because I appreciate that so much, by the way. And it's just really heartwarming. And also I know that the people that I've had that experience with too. But I think it's like, you know, we sometimes forget the impact that we have. And you're having a phenomenal impact. There's going to be people who say exactly the same about you. And it's just like so strange sometimes that you think about, I always find it strange anyway. Like people are like actually following me on what
you're like, oh
yeah, like, and so it's very like when I sit down and think about what we did at Boss Babe and what I've gone on to do with the conversations I have, it is kind of mind-boggling to think about. And so, and even if it's just one or two people in a room, it doesn't have to be millions. I think that's something that, you know, sometimes with social media, we really lose sight of, or having a podcast, we lose sight of, like, someone needs that message.
Yeah.
And I know you've been like doing more vulnerable stuff on your social media right now, like talking about depression and stuff. And like, it's so powerful. And like social media gets such a bad rep in so many ways. And it is really difficult for mental health in some ways, but actually it's really amazing and allowing people to see actually what's possible. Because one of the reasons that I was so passionate about Boss Babe and what we did was because as we got bigger, I got to sit in rooms that I knew I never, ever would have had access to before. And I thank goodness every day. And one thing was like, I really, whether it's on my newsletter or even when we were in Boss Babe, like the membership that we had, I was always like, I want to give them access to rooms that I know my previous self would be like, wait, what happens in there? And like not gatekeeping. I think that's just such an important mission that we all do to help other women, because that's how we get to really change the landscape of having more women with more money and doing more like better things with their wealth. You know, I think women do tend to be in general a lot more caring and nurturing. And you know,
and I feel like I always like felt that in you. Like there was something really generous about Boss Babe, like even from the free stuff that you guys used to do and the membership that you had. And like you said, I think it's really easy to, from the outside looking in, see women with like gigantic audiences that have created this like huge success. And somehow you feel like, oh, we're so different. And then you meet the people that you admire and that have been a part of your journey. And there's something so good for the soul when you realize that like we're the same and we are the same. And it's so refreshing to experience someone that has been that has created such a shift in the online space, but continues to be so, you continue to be such a generous person with your insights, with your wisdom, with your network, with your, I reached out to you when I wanted to do the show. It's been on my heart since we did the movie, since we did the mastermind back in November. I knew I wanted to do this. And I remember messaging you and being like, hey, am I crazy? Like, this is in a few weeks. Like, I want to do this now. Do you want to be part of it? You've just had a tiny human being like 8 weeks ago. I'm like, no pressure. Say no if you don't want to. And the way that this has all come together is directly correlated to the women that I'm connected to who are like, you were like, who can I introduce you to? How can I help you? What do you need from me? And I think like when you are generous with your wisdom, but not in a way that is like lacking in boundaries, but in a way that has got like respect for the authority but also for the relationship and like giving and mutually beneficial. I feel like it's just been so powerful to be around women like you and the women that are on the show this week, that everyone has been so generous with their time, with their energy, with their insights. And yeah, I just was so taken back by how generous you've been since I met you.
You know what I always think about is people were generous to me. And I always think about, you can't necessarily pay it back to the person that gave you something. And so I always think, how can I pay it forward to other people? So it doesn't necessarily, I'm very, very lucky now that I have amazing relationships and I have people that have really supported me, either when I've been going through something or I've needed something or there has been an introduction or whatever. And I always think about it kind of karma in a way, just like, how do I pay it forward? And it doesn't always have to be directly, but there's some people who've helped me. I couldn't give them anything. They have status, they have wealth, they have everything that they need. They don't need anything from me. So I always kind of hold that and be really grateful for it and then think, okay, how can I pass it to the next person that comes along who's like, hey, could you help me with this or support me with this? Because I think that ultimately is like how, I enjoy it, but also like how relationships blossom and how you just kind of, get to be in flow with it all.
But it's so good because I think you are a testament to, and I would argue I am a testament to the fact that when you work on, you have been so exceptional and you have such a great reputation with every single person that talks about you with such high regard. And it is the epitome of the online space is big, but it's also this big. And I think sometimes people forget that, like, if you genuinely show up in a way that you did a really good job of this, of really honing in on your excellence and becoming really known, but also showing up in every space and every relationship that you have like created from a place of really, really authentically being an authority, but being yourself. And as a result, people want to help you. Your name has a reputation before you've even walked in the room. And that exceeds just what you did at Boss Babe. Like, that transcends your season at Boss Babe and your exit and what you've done since. It's like every single person I know that even hears your name talks about you so highly. And you only create that through all of the work that you have done and how you've shown up for people, like, during that time and also after that time. And I love your take on generosity and the idea of paying it forward, because to your point, you can't always give it to the person that gave it to you, and they're not always the one that needs it. There's somebody else that does. Now, I know that the epitome, it's kind of become really cool in the female entrepreneur space. It was like we've had different seasons in terms of like the original season of Boss Babe, and we're going to come back around to this conversation, but I want to talk specifically about exiting, because I think it's starting to gather some momentum, which is great because it's a conversation that not enough female entrepreneurs have, because they don't even realize that it's on the table. But I do also think that sometimes people glamorize the experience of exiting, and they think that that's like the goal, and it's like, I'm going to exit. But I would love if you would share a little bit about your experience, because I know that it must have been such a interesting period of time to have built something so big and then to exit it. Like, what was the transition like between like exiting that and going into your, like, obviously the incredible success that you've built now?
Well, first of all, I'm like really grateful that I got to exit a company because like, and positively, I actually previously with my chiropractic businesses in the UK, I'd exited that, but that was a lot more not as necessarily as profitable because of COVID. So there was the exit was kind of,
more challenging
because COVID shut us down for a period and, etc. So this time to exit from a business that we'd built as an asset was such a blessing. And I speak to so many people and it's like, oh my goodness, like, how did you do this? What do I need to do that? And we can talk about those things around trademarks and understanding your asset protections and all those pieces. But what I noticed was like you work towards this goal quite often. Like I think when you're building a business, you have like two choices. You're either building it just to support your lifestyle and you never ever have a vision of exiting, or you build it because you want to exit at some point. I always knew I wanted to exit Boss Babe at some point. That's why I made sure I had, like, we had the trademarks.
You were so adamant about setting it up as an asset that existed beyond you. And that's why even the identity of Boss Babe was not just about you. It was about the movement.
I wanted to build a brand that all women could see themselves. And that was really important to me. It didn't matter where you come from, what country you lived in, what color of your skin was. I wanted everybody able to see themselves as a Boss Babe. And so that was built very intentionally in that way. And so when I was able to exit, because it wasn't attached to my face, it was about the brand, and I'd done the work and got the trademarks. That's why I think people have seen like the planner release. Like that was because I got trademarks and did the part with Blue Sky, so we could get in Walmart and all those pieces. But it's funny because when I did exit, I expected this feeling of just like elation and great, like, oh my goodness. Like you're at the top of the mountain, like you made it. Yeah. But it honestly was one of the most challenging times. And everyone, like living in LA, I have a lot of friends who are founders and have exited businesses. And everyone who had not exited a business congratulated me. And the people that had exited a business went, how are you? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Because you don't realize it at the time, but so much of your identity becomes about, oh, I'm the co-founder of Boss Babe, or oh, I do this, or I do that. Your whole elevator pitch, you've had it for like years, like you've honed this mission. And when you've reached there, you're kind of like left for this moment around like, oh, what do I do next? Yeah. Like, what is that next phase? I mean, the universe had different plans for me, and I found out I was pregnant 18 days later. But yeah, like we'll keep you busy. But yeah, it was a lot of emotion tied to that, and really trying to refine that identity. And I think that's one thing I definitely realized is, you know, Boss Babe was amazing. We spoke about women being able to earn money and, you know, being unapologetically ambitious. And it was also part of that hustle culture. And at that time, I was so proud of, you know, working a ridiculous amount of hours, having the busiest calendar, being able to outwork anyone. Like that's like the badge of honor that I wore. And so when you take that kind of armor off, and then you're left with, okay, well, who am I outside of Boss Babe? I really noticed there's a lot of emptiness around that again, because I just worked 24/7 and put everything into it. It was your life. It was my life. And so that kind of sparked its own kind of soul searching mission.
I also think it's harder too when, you know, you build something and it also is continuing to exist without you, and it's like you've laid the foundation and you've done all the, like you said, with the planner and it coming out, and it's kind of like you're like, oh, you kind of like been part of that, and then it feels so strange. I can only imagine it feels strange also to see it, and in such an amazing way. Like I know that you were just like so proud and so happy to see Boss Babe continuing to thrive, and it just, there is space for everyone and there's different seasons for us all, but I can only imagine that it also makes it slightly almost harder in a way, because you're also continuing to watch the brand that you built.
And also because I think too, like, you know, Natalie and I in the end had very different visions of where we wanted to take the company. And so that's ultimately why one of us decided that we needed to step away. And so I think that there's part of that. But ultimately, like you say, like one, I'm so proud of everything that we did. And like when I look at the statistics and I think about that, I hear your story, I hear other people's stories, like it's just very heartwarming to me, because like I said, so many people, and it's not just the one woman's life, it's like the ripple effect of her family and even like, you know, her nucleus, maybe the people that live in a house, but also beyond that. Because I know for me, like going on this journey, it's not just changed my life, it's not just going to change my kids, it's also just changed my family. It's like all of my family are now entrepreneurs. Like it's wild. Like my cousins, my brother, like all of them have become entrepreneurs. And so it's really kind of cool to see like the positive ripple effect of it, and for it to still go on and do that. So,
and also it's like, I think about the amount of times, I guarantee if I went back and far enough in my camera roll, you would find screenshots of like Boss Babe stuff on my camera roll. And I remember being in hotels on the road in my corporate job, and just like, it was such a piece of like, keep going, like there's more available for you. And it's, I think that's such a good reminder of like, I never reached out to you. I never personally, I didn't mean I didn't engage with the content, but I never once reached out to you, reached out to Natalie. And
I think that it's that reminder of like, you're impacting more people whose names you may never know. And in this example, like you did get to know me, but there's more often all of the people who you don't get to know, and you are having an impact even when you don't, you're not aware of who those humans are, and you may never get to meet them.
And you know what? We did that on like, yes, we have millions of followers, but also like I want everyone listening to us to know, even if they've got 3,300, like you're actually having an impact.
100%.
And to be able to kind of have interactions where someone leaves you feeling like, wow, that actually changed my mindset or something, or actually that person made me feel a bit better about my day. Like that don't underestimate the ripple effect. Even by just walking into a hotel lobby and smiling at people or saying hello, like it all counts. And as we enter the year of the horse, I think this is something people can take with them. You don't have to be here conquering the world. You can just be like,
I think this is a good conversation though, because I think, there's a lot of conversation around the year of the horse and momentum. And I think that in the female entrepreneur space and in the online space in general, people think that momentum is momentum and results come from like doing the big stuff, the big shiny stuff. It's like these huge things that you do. But I would love to speak to this as somebody that has now built multiple wildly successful companies again and again and again, whether we're talking about chiropractic clinics across the UK, whether we're talking about building Boss Babe, where you talk about the 2%, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. You have built over and over and over again wild success. The common denominator is you. But what are the things that actually move the needle? Because I think that there's a common misunderstanding that people think it's the big stuff, when actually I think it's momentum is created more in the over time.
It's like consistency. And I think it's the same thing about like losing weight, right?
Yeah.
It's not that, to lose a few pounds, or let's say that you lose 10 pounds, you lose it all in one day. It's like, it's just those little bits over time. I once heard you're British, so I can say it. I once heard this like saying about a digestive biscuit, which is a cookie for any Americans listening. Like if you eat a digestive and one extra digestive biscuit every day, like it accumulates over the year. And so I think the same thing around like business is actually the smaller habits that actually accumulate over time. Like Boss Babe, we didn't go, all of a sudden, let's just like post one quote and hopefully, or let's just do this one thing and that's going to be the big break. It was like, okay, we're posting these pink quotes. Oh, that's interesting. Every time we post a pink quote, it gets a lot of interaction and we get followers from it. What happens if we post it twice a day? Oh, we could post it 3 times a day. And now we're just tripling and compounding on what we're doing. And I think that those small habits that people underestimate, and I'm not saying like the whole thing around jumping in I don't do ice baths. I don't get up at 5 in the morning. Like that's not what I do. I'm like, if those habits work for you, great, go do them. But permission for everyone to be like, okay, what are the small habits that I can do? And what can I stay consistent at within my business for a year? Like looking at it through that lens going, okay, I don't need to be doing these. I haven't, as much as I loved having a podcast, obviously podcasting was actually my favorite thing to do at Boss Babe.
You always said
I
that.
was obsessed with it. Like we went up to twice a week and I was doing that. And I was like, obviously I was in LA, so I was like really doing majority of the interviews before I left. And it was like my favorite thing to do. But I'm like, to anyone starting out, you don't need to have a podcast to build a huge, look, how many millions have you done? You're just starting it now. It's like the little steps that you need to do, but you just need to stay consistent. Like once you find that messaging, staying consistent with your messaging. Like once you find something that's like, oh, this is my style around creating a social media thing, do that. Or a newsletter.
But you say that, and I love the fact that there are key takeaways that I think are so important, which is number one, you guys had originality, which is the most underrated thing. And in 2026, originality wins. I'm going to tattoo it on my forehead and tell everybody this. The more original you can be around defining your way, it doesn't mean you have to create completely off the wall different things, go for it, but you can actually take commonly done things, but find your, whether it be content, whether it be podcasting, find your way of doing it that you become known for. Boss Babe became very known for the quotes, the pink and the black and the quotes. And
everything
like you said, everything was built from that because you paid attention to what was working and you doubled down on what was working and you were super consistent around it. And so your originality, it became instant. Authority was there because the minute you saw pink and black, you thought Boss Babe. And it's the same rules that worked in 2018 for Boss Babe are the same rules that win now in 2026. People think the online space is so different, but it's not. the same rules apply. Originality wins, consistency wins, building a brand that's bigger than just you wins, and having an identity to your brand where actually like people can tap into what it means for them. Not everything is like about you. And I think we make sometimes in the online space, we get so about us that we forget that like, actually, this isn't even about you anyway. This isn't about you anyway.
How can you show up in service? And like, how can you show up in service consistently for you? It doesn't, like, my life is going to look very different. How I can be consistent, it's going to look very different to how someone else can be consistent. Neither right or wrong. You just need to find the thing that works for you.
I love that. So your life has changed exponentially. Like when I think about you, like from where you were even in like 2020 to where you are now, like it's crazy to think about. Like I was starting my business in 2020 and then like here you are having like exited. You've now got 2 tiny humans. You've built this incredible life, this incredible business. When you think about your boss babe days of the Danielle then versus who you are now, like what do you like? Because I think about just like how significantly your life has changed and how much you are the same but also completely different. What are the biggest things that you like smile and think about when you think about like Danielle like in your boss babe days versus like you now? Like the biggest kind of identity shifts, if you will, even in you.
I would say like one of the things before, like boss babe me, I guess, I was like yes to everything. And I do feel like, you know, sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, did we really contribute to this like hustle mentality? Because like that's all we did was like, I literally live and breathe work. And so I had very little boundaries. I had very little boundaries around, you know, the hours I work, what I'd say yes and no to. Like if there was an invitation or anything, I was doing it, someone asked me to do it. Like I have like, because I was obviously co-founded it in 2018. I didn't move to the States until 2020. So you have to remember, I was like working like
I always forget that. You were
there were 8 hours behind in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So there was like nights I would be up till like 3, 4 a.m. working. And that was okay because I was passionate and purposeful about it. And I wouldn't change that. But I think the person I am now is more discerning around what I say yes to and what I say no to. Now I look back, I was probably doing a lot of it out of self-worth, like proving to me like, oh, I'm good enough, you know?
And I feel like, did you feel pressure back then? Like with how much attention and eyeballs, and because you were pioneering, like in the female entrepreneur space, this whole like concept of being a boss babe, I can only imagine that as that even continued to gather more steam and momentum, there must have been a certain layer of like, responsibility but like pressure that comes with like all eyeballs on you, and it was working so well.
Yeah, and I was also really not amazing at delegating. Like I was like very much like, oh, I'll do it. And so I think that was like led to a lot of me like, you know, not necessarily, I have to catch myself even now, you know, when you like delegate something but then you're like peeking over and I'm like, okay, no. And I try and manage a lot more through KPIs then, but we grew so quickly and so rapidly, you know, we were catching up with ourselves. So I think for a lot of it, I was doing like, you know, we had an amazing team and I probably looking back could have delegated a lot better at certain times and not necessarily done the hours I needed to, but also had nothing else in my life.
Right.
You know, I was happy to like, it was my life. I was like happy to do all of those things, but yeah, it was a lot of responsibility. And I'm always a person like no regrets. So I never look back and be like, oh, I would do like, I regret the way I did this or I regret the way I did that. But I would be like, oh, that was interesting. I was inexperienced at that point. And if I did that again, I would change it. And that's why I try. That's why I try and mentor from that place now. I'm like, hey, look, I've made that mistake. Don't make that mistake. Like do it differently.
And I always say like, I didn't have the wisdom available then that I have now, but you can only create the wisdom on the other side of the contrast.
And it's like, I actually, you know, so I heard this, you know, I used to say like, I read this, which really means like I saw it on TikTok. No, but like I saw, I think it was actually on YouTube that someone was talking about, you know, paying to go to school, and you pay a lot of money to go to school and to learn. And so sometimes you have to look at business and like you might do deals that lose you money. You might have thought, hang on a minute, I hired this person. That was not the right thing to do. I negotiated a contract badly. And that's just your school tuition.
Yeah, you're paying.
Yeah. You're paying to learn one way or the other. I think paying to learn in business is a lot, you know, it's going to get you a lot further than paying for traditional schooling nowadays. And so that's the way I try and like look at it. Yeah, those of course are things I would definitely have done differently. And I try and now come at the fact of like, okay, what did I learn from that? And how do I make sure I don't repeat it again? And then second of all, like, how can I share that with other people? Like, how can I share those lessons? Like, I literally just voiced noted you the other day and I was like, hey, so I've actually been here. Let me tell you what I did wrong.
Like, SOS.
Don't do this.
But again, the wisdom you shared with me coming before I came here, when I was navigating a really difficult week and a couple really difficult situations, this is where the power in having people that have navigated that, having the wisdom to reflect to you the things that make you go, okay, this is not just me. This happens to everyone. This will be something that I'll look back on and be able to impart my wisdom onto somebody else in the future. But I'm so grateful that we had that conversation before I came. And I'm so grateful that we get to celebrate tonight. And we have plenty more conversation ahead. We are going to go back to our room and get cozy once we're done with cocktails so we can talk more about motherhood. But cheers to an incredible year, our friendship, you being on the show, and our most successful, happiest year.
Soft girl.
Spilling the Soft Girl Millions tea with Danielle Canty. This is the most British thing that we've done so far.
Very nostalgic.
Very nostalgic with the rain and the British English tea.
We could basically be in England.
We could. We brought England to Beverly Hills. Who would have thought it though? When I think about, do you ever find that? I mean, you live in LA, but I often find myself here thinking 15-year-old Loughborough me is like pinching herself. Like, can you believe you live in LA and that this is your life? The Loughborough
No, and I never even dreamt of moving to America. I don't know how I ended up here, you guys.
You're like, this is just luck, but it's not. I just think it's so cool. Like, it's so easy just to normalize all of this, and then you're like, gosh, this is my life. Like, that we get to get paid to yap and drink tea and spend time together. We have been talking a lot about your season at Boss Babe and everything that you've built to date, all of your multiple businesses that you've built, and the 2% since you've left, and you've become a mom. You've got 2 tiny humans now. So, and you have 2 under 2.
Yeah, well, there was 2 under 2 for a minute. Now it's an 8-week and a 2-year-old.
Still.
Just freshly 2.
So let's talk about, Soft Girl Millions. I talk a lot about the concept of Soft Girl Millions. And I think people think a lot of the soft girl messaging is around Pilates and sourdough and like being in your feminine. And motherhood is this duality filled experience because it's super feminine whilst also being very much in your masculine, because you are giving constantly. And when you're running a business, that also requires a lot from you. And when you have an 8-week-old and a 2-year-old and a really successful business, what does this season look like for you? You've done seasons where you've been very much in your like ambition, like boss babe era. And now you're in a very different season. And I know you were sharing that your boundaries have improved, but what does this season look like for you? Like, how are you, I hate even using the word balance because I inherently don't really believe in it. But what are you prioritizing to make sure that your cup remains full in the season that you're in?
Can I be really honest?
Always.
I think that it's something that is really evolving for me. Mm-hmm. I felt like having one child, it was a shock, but I could still do a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, I still found that, the babies nap a lot at the beginning, and I still felt like I had space. Whereas, and a lot of I tweaked my life, I would say. And whereas having 2 and 2 under 2 kind of obliterated everything there, any systems that I had, any calendar routine that I had, any of it. And so for me, this kind of like last 8 weeks have been a lot of rebuilding, not to mention because Rio, my last son, he was born and spent time in NICU straight away, which is something that, you know, no mother really anticipates. You don't go into hospital thinking, okay, like this is going to be the outcome. And so a lot of what I have been working on more recently is realizing that, number one, you know, I am a routine girl. I like systems, like organization.
You're a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo. And that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know, things happen in life that you are not prepared for. And it sounds silly, and some people are listening into it being like, wait, of course. But like for me, that was like a really big adjustment. It being like, hang on a minute, I need to relook at my life. Like actually 2 kids is very different to 1. And what does that space look like? And I think for a long time, I just crammed my life full of so much stuff and never allowed room for space. And now I have to carve space because I don't know what's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, even to the point where this time I was like, oh yeah, I probably won't really take much of a maternity. My team were like, they made me take a maternity leave. I wasn't even planning. I was like, yeah,
be
I'm
fine.
having the C-section this day. I'll like be back in like a week or 2. And they're like, no, let's like carve out 6 weeks for you. And I was like, no, I won't need it. I like work. It's really grounding. And then lo and behold, NICU and all of the other things that happened. So I think it's just like realizing that actually space has been really important to me. And this rewiring of my head, you know, you talk about the soft girl millions. And for me, soft always meant slow. And it's like that rewiring of like, no, it doesn't mean slow. It can just mean, you know, a change of direction. It can mean not actually being in the panic or the last minute or the forcing things, and actually just allowing things to flow, or not having this pressure. I think traditionally I've always put a lot of pressure on myself. And so that's what, like, you know, stepping into motherhood has really taught me, is like about how to release a lot of that pressure, and also to how to leave space for the unknown and the magic of the unknown as well.
And I think that, you know, everyone always tells you that they're not little for long, and it's like everything, it goes so fast, and it does. You know, I think about Bo is now 8, just turned 8, and Lennox is 3. And I'm like, wow, it really does. And it's like, I'm even preparing myself for the fact that I'm like, you know, soon, like Lennox is going to be 4 in April, and he's not going to, like, you know, at some point he's going to lose his baby voice. And that sounds like such a small thing, but you start being so distinctly aware of like the time does pass so fast. And I think in entrepreneurship, it almost sped up my life, because we are working on so many things, and we're always like very much like in the business and like the next goal or the next show that we're doing or this that we're doing. And before you know it, we're like in February. And I think that the time can evaporate, and it's always so difficult, I think, even for me, to be like being present is something that I've had to really actively work at understanding what that even looks like to me, because I think it was a concept that I understood, but I also didn't understand it. And in motherhood, I think it forces you into like embracing the chaos, because to your point, you can resist it in the sense of like planning, and then, you know, things never go as planned, whether it be birth or whether it be like motherhood season of adapting to 2 under 2 and running a business. But trying to be present in it and enjoying the chaos whilst also understanding that it's temporary. It's like the duality of motherhood is like nothing else. And I mean, entrepreneurship is like personal development, and motherhood and entrepreneurship is like personal development on steroids.
Yeah, you know what's been really helpful for me is like really just kind of asking myself, okay, what entrepreneur do I want to be, and what kind of mum do I want to be, and then working out what the ingredients of that are, and starting from the end point. And I think that's like one thing that in my 20s and not having children, you have the luxury of time. You have the luxury of like, you can figure it out as you're kind of going along.
Right.
Versus now I've realized a lot of it's like reverse engineering. And I think about, like, you know, you kind of mentioned it, but my new business is obviously called the 2%. And I started that because I had noticed that, hang on a minute, only 2% of women's businesses are getting to $1 million. Like, that is crazy. It's not that we're not as smart. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And I think 2 reasons is like, we take ourselves out the race. And I used to think that, excuse me, I used to think it was because, you know, there was a LinkedIn study done, and they asked women and men to apply for a job. And they noticed that women would only apply for a job if they could do 80% of what was on the job description, and men would apply if they could do 30% of what was on there. So before motherhood, I used to think it was like, we just take ourselves out of the race because we're not confident, we don't bet ourselves. And that is all still true. And then I add in motherhood, and now I can see even more so why we take ourselves out the race, or we struggle to race if you don't have the right supportive partner, or you don't have the right friendship group, or you don't have the support system. But also it's because we sometimes don't ask ourselves, okay, if this is the goal in life, and this is a goal in business, what needs to be true for these things to exist? And for me, we spoke earlier on about like a lack of delegation or the ability to work 80-hour weeks and not bat an eyelid. They're not things that I can do anymore. Like, I have to delegate. I have to trust a team. I have to understand like what are the things that I do choose to do and what don't I choose to do, and having that discernment over that. And that isn't necessarily something that's either taught or talked about a lot around the sacrifices. And there's sacrifices when you're building a business. Like how I built Boss Babe, I sacrificed lots of things. And then now I'm building again. It's also, there's still sacrifices. They just look different.
Yeah. And I think that, I think everyone wants to paint this picture of, I don't know, did you want kids when you were in your 20s? Yeah, no. Okay. I didn't either. So I didn't want kids until I met Justin. And then I was same. Okay, maybe.
But Darius always wanted kids.
Okay. And just in the same way, he's would have 100 kids. But I think there is a pressure to, especially when you're wildly successful, there is a pressure to paint the narrative of like, you can have it all. And I feel like the Boss Babe movement was very much around that, right? It was like, you can have everything. And it's like, that is true. And it also is not true because it's like at the same time, it requires a ton of support. Like in order for you to, exactly what you were saying, it's like you can have success, but you have to define what that version of success looks like for you in that season. And I think sometimes when we get caught up in the online space, like looking at other people, and it's really easy to be like, well, I should be able to do more because this person, I always say that to a lot of my clients, like when they're like, I don't know how you do everything. And I'm like, because I don't. And actually what you're seeing is I am now in a place where I'm able to receive the level of support in outside of my business and inside of my business so that I can actually be in the visionary role. But it's taken me time to get there. And it means that I actually don't do school drop off. Justin does it. I don't do school pickup. Justin does it. Our extraordinary nanny and housekeeper Talia keeps our household going. Like I don't order groceries. Like she's now doing the cooking. And I'm so grateful for that and so able to receive that. There was a period of my life where that was not the case. And as a result, I felt like I was not thriving on it in any area of my life because just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I could do it through sheer force, but it took away from my ability to be present. So for me, I've had to learn how to delegate more. But I think it's really easy for people on social media to look at like you or me and go, well, you make it look so easy. And it's like, number one, it's not. It's not easy. And some weeks it is. It feels as easy as breathing. And other weeks it does not feel easy at all. But the other thing is that we're not doing everything ourselves. And there's no possible way of like running a business yourself and being a full-time mom, and keeping everything together all the time. Like there are weeks where it feels easy and there are weeks where it just doesn't.
Yeah. And allowing that to be like normal parts of the conversation too. Like it is normal for lots of women to have help, or normal for, women who are building businesses or even working full time, and that being okay. And, also understanding what your boundaries on that are. I think everyone is allowed to have their own boundaries around what is most supportive for them and how they're building their business and building their lives without judgment. And one thing I noticed too, I did this about 3 years ago. I actually implemented a time restriction on my Instagram. So I don't have the code for it. Only Darius has the code for it. So I have to, and I asked him to put it on. And so if I want to scroll, like I have a set amount of time a day or a set amount of time to post. And if I go beyond that, I can ask him to put the code in and have more time. But what I realized around doing that was it actually allowed to hear my own wants and desires. And there's been something really highlighted to me when I first had Romeo as my firstborn, that motherhood space was so full of judgment. And I started noticing like, I don't want to judge myself for these decisions. And I also want to make a decision what's true for me. And that's what I would say about building a business. Like, you know, for a long time when we were building Boss Babe, it was glorified, the raising 20 million, the raising 100 million. But those businesses, like if you understand the VC world, of like 1 in the 5 businesses, or like they're banking on like 75% of them, I think it is actually failing.
Yeah.
And so you really need to like understand like and have that discernment kind of as a word of this conversation around like, okay, well, what do I want my life to look like? And I got to sit with, and I made sure I got to sit with like, what kind of mother do I want to be? I don't want to be the mother that people say I should be on social media. Like, well, what kind of mother do I want to be? And my mum worked, and I love that she worked, and there's so many pros to her working, so that also felt okay for me. I don't want to bake sourdough bread. I don't
me either.
care about keeping a
I
starter.
love buying. I have to go to a farmer's market
Yeah.
all day long, though.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it's like it gets to be what like it doesn't mean you're
It's like
any
your
less.
version.
Yeah.
And again, I love the like
If you want to do that, great.
for
Also,
sure. It's like we listen, we don't judge. But it
Yeah.
is that feeling of Soft Girl Millions, the concept is exactly what you're saying. It's like, what's your version of that? Like my version of soft might not be the same as yours. My version of rich might not be the same as yours. And I think that, you know, I love that you shared about the Instagram thing with the code and like vulnerably sharing that to the tune of like, hey, my husband has the code and I don't have it. I would love to know like what brought you to that place where you were like, I need to implement this, because I think so many of us don't realize sometimes like social media is the best thing in the world, because we are building these incredible businesses from our phone, and we're able to create millions and reach millions from Instagram and social media. But there is also the flip side around, if you spend too much time consuming and not creating, there is a potentially detrimental effect of how that can make you feel in an internal world, especially if you are in a more challenging season, whether that be when I've experienced in my seasons of depression. Spending a lot of time on social media didn't help me. And in motherhood, I think sometimes when you have a newborn baby, you have a lot of time on your hands in terms of when you're feeding or when the baby falls asleep on you. It's really easy just to like spend time on social media, and that can have a really significant effect depending on who you're following, what you're consuming. But what was it that led you to the place where you were like, actually, this is something that a boundary I want to put in place with myself? And how did that even come about?
because I was losing myself in other people's narratives. I was losing myself in what other people wanted in their life or had in their life. And I realized that those wants and desires weren't mine. Mine were different. And the more I correlated, the more time spending on social media, the more lost I felt in what I wanted to create, what I wanted, or even being lost in like simple moments. Like I remember we were in Barcelona. I asked him to put it on in Barcelona because we were in Barcelona, we were having the most amazing time. And I was just scrolling and I was like, oh, but they're doing this. Maybe I shouldn't be relaxing. Maybe I should be, I'm like not working enough. And I think like one of my probably core wounds that I've had to battle with and overcome over the years is the like not being good enough. I think I had a lot of that. Like, you know, I remember my GCSEs. I got 5 A stars, 4 A's, and a C. And I was
And the C
devastated with
crushed
that
you.
C.
Yeah.
Devastated. And that is a ridiculous place to live in. And so I think like just to use that analogy, I had so much, but there were parts of me that would look on at others being like, oh, but they're doing this, maybe I should be doing that, or they're doing this. And I just realized I was losing my own voice in my own head. And I was like, oh, I need to be clear on what are my wants. And ultimately for me, it's just led to so much more happiness. I'm so much more content. And I do things now, not out of pressure, not out of fear, not out of, oh, I need to do this because that's what social media says I should be enjoying. It's like, no, I want to do that because that's what's good for me. And also heading into, you know, the motherhood season, I realized that it's weird. You kind of have this I put this pressure on myself at that point, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I've been in my season of hustle. I could hustle, and like this is my season of like, I want to say slow, but it's kind of like slow in the way that we described. It's
intentional.
like intention. It's like no pressure, no panic, no performance, just doing what I want to do. And it's resulted in me making even more money than I was at a Boss Babe. But it was coming from a place of like, oh, I actually get to choose. Like I used to be proud of having a full calendar. Now I'm proud that I don't work weekends. And now I'm proud that I don't work evenings. I don't need to. And I don't want to anymore. And I might get back to a season where I want to. And for those of you who are in that season, go enjoy it, go thrive on it. But that's just not where I'm at. And I don't want to be judging myself or, thinking I'm not good enough or not doing enough by other people's narratives on social media.
And I think that that's the biggest thing is like, who am I doing it for? What am I doing it for? Because also consuming, again, coming back to what we were talking about in the bar downstairs, it's like originality is really difficult when you're flooded with everybody else's ideas. And how do you know what you really want? How do you know what you actually want to create or what you have to say if you're constantly consuming everybody else's voice and thought leadership? One of the fastest ways that I found, ironically, I resonate with that so much because one of the best ways, a real significant shift for me in my business and in my messaging and in the strategy, the direction I took was when I actually stopped consuming and I only went on social media to create and I completely stopped consuming altogether. I just stopped consuming content and I only went on Instagram to create content and then I got the hell off. And again, it was from this place of deeply desiring to even tune into, I don't know what I actually have to say because I'm consuming so many other people. Yeah. I can't tell where their thoughts begin or my thoughts begin and their thoughts begin. It was this gray area of really trying to drown out the noise. And it didn't even take that long of like not being on it. It was so fast how quickly you're able to actually tune in just by tuning out everybody else.
And there's tuning in and there's also trusting too, because that's another thing that I noticed. Actually speaking of Rio being in NICU, I realized when he was there, me and Darius would do this thing, we call it positive ping pong. And we would say like positive words over his like little crib incubator that he was in. Because we're like, okay, words have vibrations and like we don't really have much power in this moment. And so let's just kind of say like all these positive words. So we're like beautiful, hope, grateful, thankful. Like we were just like all these different words. Don't well up.
No, I'm like, that was like 8 weeks ago.
Yeah. And it really allowed me to realize like trust. Like I knew in my heart he would be okay. I knew he would come home. And I realized that how I'd lost a lot of that trust in just the knowing everything is going to be all right. And I think that when you get to come back to that in yourself and be like, I trust the universe. I trust that this is happening for the bigger play, like the bigger, like the power of the good. Like, and my ideas, I trust my ideas. I think it's so easy to get lost in like, oh, someone else, give your power away. Like I always say to people when I'm mentoring them, I'm like, don't give your power away. I will give you feedback and I'll give you these things, but also feel free to like,
it doesn't mean it's
right.
To
me on it. And like we can, ping pong the idea backwards and forwards, but like, don't give your power away. And I see so many women doing that now. And like, I'm like, no, like, in your gut, like listen to it. And I've noticed since and now on reflection prior to having Rio, I noticed how I've been giving my power away a lot or not listening to my intuition for a period of time. And it's been really actually fun to kind of start getting that back again. And I think it happens to everyone, no matter what season you're in. You have these periods where you're like, oh, hang on a minute. There's a sign or there's not a sign or hang on a minute. Like, I'm just going to do this, not because someone else is doing it on social, but because I want to and I want to create, and like that's what feels good for me.
Yeah, and trusting the leaps of faith of like, we were talking about it before we sat down here right now around just trusting the idea and trusting the people that you put around you and sharing your vision and being like, it's going to come to life. And it doesn't, for me, I'm like this show and this concept, I'm like, regardless of what it starts as and what it becomes, it's like just trusting that taking the step is enough. And we're going to make so many like learnings as we go, but it doesn't need to be perfect. The more you plan it, it never goes to plan, right? We could never have planned it was going to rain in California the week that we decided to come to LA, but it doesn't matter because the point is that the creative inspiration was there and the spark was there, and it's like following those sparks and really being able to trust, like if it's something is on your heart to create, like trust that, find a way of making it happen with people around you that can amplify your vision and not like put it out, and maintaining like the truth of like what you want to do, not what everyone else's ideas are around it. And I think that you were so good at that when I shared the vision for the show with you. You were like, I love this. Like, yeah, like do it. Like this sounds amazing. And you like reflected back to me the things about the mission behind it and why I wanted to do it to begin with. You know, I think that you've been in the online space, you know, a while, and you've seen a lot of things, like a lot of trends. You've been part of the trends. You've set the trends. What do you see now this year? If like, you know, for everyone that is in this space, there is more creators than ever before. Like content has up leveled. Like it is not the same as it was in 2018. Like the playing field is very different. The market is way more mature. AI gets a lot of a bad rep, but it kind of leveled the playing field for people around really up-leveling the level of content that's out there, whether it be visuals or whether it be written. And there's a lot of pros with that. There's a lot of cons with that. I think I would love to know what you're seeing this year and what you can feel based on your experience of the trends that you've seen since, you know, 2018.
You know what's really interesting and funny? Like trends in social media are a little bit like fashions. They like come back around. But you do.
I always say this.
Like I feel like people don't really notice that. And so yeah, it's like things will come and they'll come back around. So like obviously we had like the perfect, I actually recorded a reel on this. I haven't put it out yet, but we had the era of the perfect flat laid and the quotes, and that's what I really grew up in. I say grew up, but on social media, right? And then we went like Gen Z came in and they're like, no, we want everything really like authentic. But by authentic, they mean kind of like, you know, like no polish whatsoever, like rough and like ready, raw, really raw content. And then we went to like these really professional, like
very
video,
curated.
like these, like even if you didn't have a podcast, you were like putting out podcast stuff and like making out.
You had a mic and you were talking.
And then now we're kind of in this like face to camera kind of era, and so I think that it's important to notice the trends that are, but I think what always is important is going to be the trend that we're moving into is really honing in and doing stuff differently right now, like authenticity. And I mean that because AI is going to make sure, like I think even I got a bit excited about this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I could create social media content and I don't need to record it. I can use my AI and I can use my voice and I don't even need to do it. Amazing. But actually very quickly you can see that people's capacity for that is going to get is already like
already we're seeing it.
Yeah. And so what I see is people really wanting people to show up authentically themselves, say different things, not just have everything AI prepared, not just like perfect and really well spoken all the time. They're going to want to see the imperfections. And in fact, a TikTok shop study, notice this. So basically they gave 2 people scripts to sell on TikTok shop, and the first one was perfect, and the second one they made her spill her smoothie on purpose as part of the script.
Did better.
They sold more. So I think people are actually going to want to see more imperfections from the people that they're following, because that's how you stand out against AI. Like AI doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have like backstory. Even if it's faked, it still is noticeable. So I think more storytelling, more story selling, always been like a key thing, and then just allowing yourself not to be perfect in a way that kind of shines through.
That is your superpower. Yeah. Like one of the coolest things about it's never been easier to create content, because face to cam is in, because FaceTime type of content is in. And the reason it's in is because no one trusts that things are not AI anymore. Yeah. And to your point, I'm like, trends, it's in a cycle. We go through these phases of like ugly content is in. And then we're like, but nothing is ever in or out. No. For me, it's always about, all of it is always in. It's actually about the fullest expression of you. So it's like you get to be all of it, right? I am the, hey, I suffer with depression. Here's me talking real and raw and vulnerable. I am the hilarious version of me that I think I am, the comedian version of me. I'm also the trailblazer version of me. I'm the audacious version of me. I'm the soft, and I'm like, you know me, you know my heart. And I think sometimes it can be easy to miss that on social media, but I am the extremely heart-driven version of me. I'm all of it. And that's the best fucking part about being a woman. And our job is to bring that full expression forward without over-analyzing every single piece of content, because you get to do it again tomorrow.
It's like the multifaceted parts of you. I think like, again, like it's the being able to share like the backstory, but like all the parts, like the, what's the word? Like the contrast, you know, like the contrast of like, okay, I'm having these $1 million months. You were sharing in your socials, and then like, oh, but I also was like feeling the most depressed I ever had at that point. Like, and in fact, Matthew Hussey spoke at my who I love. You guys should follow him if you don't. But Matthew Hussey spoke at one of my mastermind retreats. And he said that what actually makes people really interesting, because he talks about dating, so he talks about love life. And he said what makes people really interesting is when you get like two kind of traits, like what did you call them? Like basically not traditional pairings. So I would always say this about my husband, which makes him very interesting because, you know, he's like this tall, masculine black guy, but then he's actually very spiritual. And that's a very unusual pairings, he calls them. And so I think when you, as people, have unusual pairings, I also think this about Aggie, our friend. She is like this gorgeous blonde and then skydives.
Yeah.
So I think when you can allow these unusual pairings to come forwards in your content, it makes you more real and more
magnetizing to consume.
Interesting. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, wait a minute.
We're like,
I
that was
expecting
unexpected.
That.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be contrarian and like, oh, I believe this. Although, like, I think that's what you should be doing in messaging, like having something that's not always is always thought of. But I think if you can think a little bit more about your, you know, unusual pairings in your personality or the things that you've done or your backstory, it's kind of a cool way to differentiate.
What's your unusual pairing?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I was like, I actually need to pick
She's like, I immediately regret it.
I always like think about Darius's, and I'm like, oh, that's why you're so interesting. I might be asked that on my stories. So I asked Darius what my unusual pairing is.
My unusual
I think
pairing?
I'm too usual.
There is nothing usual about you. I can confirm there's nothing usual about you. But I do think that, you know, much like with all of us, like, you know, even with me, you know, watching women like you, there are assumptions that are made, right? So people will look at you and be like, oh, well, you always have it together. You've been successful in everything you've touched has turned to gold. Is there still, you talked about a part of you being like doing things from a place of like proving like I'm good enough. Is there any part of you now that you like in terms of like stepping into like your soft girl season, knowing that I know you just had a baby 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But is there any part of you that any part of you that is a more unusual pairing and you're like wildly successful, like you're the most Virgo of Virgos, like you're just everything you do, you're charismatic, you're attractive, it's like you've got a beautiful husband and stunning children, you know, people are like, oh, well, it's okay for you, like I'm out here and we're not the same. But is there any part of you where you're like, I'm still working on this, I'm still working on this part of me?
I think mine would be it's like the organization, the planning, but then that actually resulting in like the want to be perfect all the time. I think that's one thing I probably do struggle with. I'm trying to think what the unusual pairing of that is though. But like if you ask me what I'm like working on or like what is something that I know I could be better at, it's like I want things to be perfect before. I'm like, oh, I'll do that once, like I'll release that once it's perfect. And like that was actually okay to do when you don't have kids, because you have 80 hours a week that you can spend working. And then when you have kids, you're like, oh, okay, I got to work 8 hours this week because they were sick.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like? So I think like for me, that's definitely like, but I guess that's very usual because it's a Virgo trait. Like, oh yeah, that's like, I mean, I have all this like the success, but I still have self-doubt around like, okay, is this good enough to put out? So and that would be
even now, right? You're like,
my God,
even now.
I would say it's even worse right now. Since I've had kids, I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. So and the identity shifts, you know, like also for me, it's like I'm not the person that I once was. So how does that shape in this new kind of era that I'm moving into? Because like I said, I feel like and by the way, lots of people find one hard, so I'm not taking away from that. I think definitely 2 kids has rocked me way more. I've shared more about my postpartum story this time around like, oh, like this has really flawed me. Like I had to go to therapy. I'm in therapy right now.
Yeah, which is great though. I think even that, it's like the truth of the duality and like you said, the contrast of the experience. It's like, it's all of it. It gets to be amazing and also incredibly challenged. You also had a really traumatic birth experience and your baby was in the NICU. So I think that you're just, the fact that you even said yes to doing this show, I was like, no pressure.
Actually, you know what? I think I really just realized my unusual. I'm like, I think mine is like, I have this side of me that's like very perfect in one way, but then I also have this wilder side that'll say yes to anything, like rock up to stuff.
Exactly. You're like a Virgo, but then you also, when
Like
I asked you
Darius
to do the
gets
show, I'm
into-
like, it made
yeah.
no sense to me that we
sure.
were talking earlier about how you're like, oh, I just like plan everything. And I'm like, oh no, I was like, we were just going to do this. But if you'd have asked me 8 weeks postpartum to do a show like this, I'd have been like, absolutely not. But you're right. It's like you're a super Virgo, but you're also really chill. Like you're super chill on the other side of it.
Yeah, you have to be also. My husband's like, he's got all these good ideas all the time. I have to be chill to go with the flow with him. That Libra energy.
I love that. We love a good Libra energy. So as you step into the rest of this year and you think about what your Soft Girl Millions season looks like, I know you said you're still defining what that looks like, and you've still, you've just got like your second baby and you're stepping into this whole, but what are you excited about this year? Like, what are the things that you're excited to create and express this year? And like, what are the things that you're most looking forward to experiencing?
This is, I think, like one of those things where it's actually about, this is the most Virgo answer. It's actually really I like love evergreen, right? You guys, I think I've spoken, those who follow me know, like I actually really hate launches because it very much deregulates me. And I hate that like stop and start energy. And so I'm really excited about finding my new routine.
We love that.
Like this routine, and that's like that for me. Like I like building on things and like having this foundation that I get to then build upon and get better and better and optimize. Like that to me is like how I create. I create from a place of like stability and growth and desire. And yeah, I've got some new programs coming out this year, and I'm really excited for those. And building my team, but ultimately having that balance of motherhood. That's what I'm really excited about this year. Is like building on that, like having this flow and creating space for like that creative nature to come back through and, be back in flow.
I love this. Well, I'm so grateful that you said yes to doing this show and for sharing your wisdom and for spilling the tea. Cheers. I love you. To Soft Girl Millions.
Soft Girl Millions.
Next time on the Soft Girl Millions show. Chaos. Welcome.
Show it more. It's actually hard to capture because
it's creatively bringing the joy and
which one?